Alright guys, so now that we know what the DOM is, we've examined it a little bit, now we're going to take a look at DOM selectors. Okay, so these are document object methods that allow us to basically pull things from the DOM, and then we can do different things with the elements or the nodes. jQuery was used for a long time to do this stuff, for DOM manipulation and DOM selection, but vanilla JavaScript has gotten much easier to work with, and I almost never suggest jQuery as it's unnecessary most of the time. It just adds bloat to your application. One good thing jQuery is good for is quick, simple plugins or scripts that you need to do a specific action, but I never suggest it for DOM manipulation anymore. Alright, so basically in vanilla JavaScript we have a couple different selectors that can be categorized into two different types, single element and multiple element selectors. So single element selectors will allow you to grab one element by its ID or its class or whatever it may be, and it only stores one thing. So if you use a single element selector on, let's say, a class that appears more than once in the DOM, it's just going to grab the first one. Okay, it's just going to grab that single first one. Now multiple element selectors will actually get all of the elements with that class and then return an HTML collection or a node list depending on which selector you use. So we've already seen an example of an HTML collection in the last video when we selected items directly with document properties. Okay, remember we looked at the forms and the links and all that. So in this video we're going to take a look at the two single element selectors. Alright, so the first one is get element by ID. Alright, or actually document dot get element by ID. Okay, and this just does just what it says. It selects things by their IDs. Okay, so you can't select a class or a tag or anything like that. The next selector we're going to get into is much more flexible. This one has been around for a long time. So let's go ahead and take a look at our document. Alright, now we have an ID. Where is it? This H5 right here has an ID of task title. So let's say we want to select this H5, which is this right here. Alright, so we could actually just console.log it by saying document dot get element by ID, and then we want task dash title. Alright, now if I save that, you'll see that down here in the console it'll actually show the H5, okay, just like it is in the DOM. Now we can get things from it as well, so I'm going to show you just a couple different things that we can do when we select an item, and this is stuff we'll be doing throughout the course. So we can get things from the element, like let's say we want to get its ID, which we already know because that's what we fetched it by, but just to show you that we can do get element by ID, task title, and we can say dot ID and save. We should probably log this. Let's go ahead and console.log and save, and now you can see that we get task title. So we can get IDs, we can get classes. It doesn't have a class on it, but if it did, we could use class name like that. Notice it's blank, but if I were to put a class on this, let's say class equals test and save, you'll see we get test. Alright, so we can do that, and we can get any attributes. I'm going to get into more of this stuff later on as well. But I just wanted to show you that we can get stuff from it by selecting it with this get element by ID. Alright, so we can also do things to the styling. So let's say change styling. So for instance, let's do document dot get element by ID, task title. And to change any kind of styling, you want to do dot style, and then you want to do dot whatever property you want to change. So let's say we want to change the background. Alright, so we'll say background and we'll set it to equals, and then let's make it a dark gray. So we'll do 333. And you can do that. You can do, you know, colors like that, or RGB values. Anything that you can do in CSS you can do here. Alright, so if we go ahead and save that, you can see now that the H5 has a dark background. Alright, let's say that we want to change the color now to white. So we'll do style.color and we'll change that to FFF, which will make it white. Let's say we wanted to add some padding to it. So we'll do style.padding and we'll set that to, let's say, 5 pixels. Alright, so we've changed the style in JavaScript. Okay, and a lot of times if you want to make something disappear, usually you'll do this, it'll be hooked to some kind of event, like if you click a button, something will disappear or something like that. What you would do is set display to none. Alright, so if I do that, it'll just completely get rid of it. Alright, but I'm gonna comment that out. Now, you don't want to do this just to style your application. You usually do this, like I said, when you're implementing events. If you hover over something and you want something else to show or disappear. For dynamic functionality, you're not going to use this just to style this heading. That's, you use CSS for that. You wouldn't use JavaScript for that. But just to show you that you can change styles in JavaScript. Alright, you can also change the content. So let's say, actually I'll just copy this. Okay, now there's a few different methods or properties that we can use to change content. So one is text content, like that. And let's set it to, we'll say task list and save. And you can see it now says task list. Alright, so we've changed the content. Now, in addition to text content, we have, actually I'll just copy this whole thing. We have inner text. Okay, so inner text, and this time we'll change it to, let's say, my tasks, and save, and we get my tasks. Alright, now sometimes you may want to insert HTML. In fact, we do that quite a bit in vanilla JavaScript when we're working with the DOM. You'll want to maybe fetch something through the Fetch API or Ajax or something, and then you want to insert a chunk of HTML, and this is where inner HTML comes in. So let's go ahead and copy that, and then instead of inner text, I'm going to say inner HTML, and inside here let's just put a span like that, and we'll say task list, and just to show you that it's actually there, I'm going to put a style of color red. Alright, and save, and now you can see it says task list. It's surrounded in a span. If we hover over it here, you'll see a span with the color of red. Alright, so that's what we can do if we want to insert HTML. Now, what we're doing here, calling this getElementById task title so many times, is not very efficient. We shouldn't do this. What we should do is cache this into a variable. So we would set like task title and set that to getElementById task title, and then take this variable and do what we want with it. So we would change the styles here by using that variable. Alright, we'll use it down here to change the content. Alright, so that's a much better way of doing it, and if we save, we get the same result. Alright, so that is getElementById. That's the first selector. The next one I want to show you is query selector. Alright, so document.query selector, which is newer and much more powerful. Now, it's much more powerful because we don't have to select things by ID. We can select them by anything. This is basically, it basically works like jQuery. You can put any CSS selector in here. Alright, so let's go ahead and do console.log, and let's say document.query selector selector, and we can get something by its ID. So we would just put a hash in there, just like we would with jQuery, and we'll say task title and save, and you can see we can get that h5 by its ID. All right, now we can also get things by class. So let's say we want the class of card title. We would put a dot in there just like we would with jQuery and CSS, and we get the span with the class of card title. All right, we can also just use the selector itself, or the element itself. So let's say we wanted to get the h5. We could simply put in h5 and save, and you'll see that it gets the h5. Now if there's more than one h5 on the page, it's just going to get the first one. Okay. Actually, I'm going to give you an example of how we can target certain elements even if there's more than one. So let's work with these list items now. Okay, so let's do document.query selector, and let's grab, we'll just put in li here, and we're going to say .style.color equals red. All right, so what do you think is going to happen here? Let's go ahead and save and find out. Now you may have thought that all of the LIs would turn red, but like I said, it's only going to be, it's a single element selector. It's only going to get the first one. All right, and this is the first one here. All right, and another thing I should mention is that you can do subclasses or nested elements. So you can do like UL LI like that. We'll make it blue. So you could do that as well. All right, now if I wanted to select, let's say, the last item here, what I could do is I could use CSS pseudo classes. So we could use last child. We could put a colon here and say last dash child and save. And now you can see that the last child is red. All right, now if you want to specify a certain one, like let's say we want the third one here to be yellow, what we could do is we could specify nth child. I realize some of you may not know about this. You may not know CSS3, but we have pseudo classes like this, and we can say nth child 3, and let's set that to yellow and save, and now you can see the third one is yellow. All right, now we can also change, text content if we want. So we'll go ahead and let's do nth child 4, and instead of changing the style, we'll say text content, and we'll change that to hello world and save, and now you can see that the text has changed here. Now, for those of you that know about nth child, about CSS3, you know that you can do odd or even as well, which is used to do like every odd list item or every odd or even div or something like that. Now, I just want to show you what happens if we try to use that with query selector. So let's change this 4 to odd, and let's change this. We won't do text content. Let's do style dot background, and we're going to set that to a gray color. So let's do hexadecimal value CCC. Now notice that only the first odd has been affected. Okay, it's not going to do every odd because this is a single element selector. All right, same thing if we were to do even. So if we change that to even and we change this to a lighter gray and save, you'll see it'll only do the first even. Now if we use the query selector all method, which we're going to look at in the next video, I'll show you how we can actually make it so that every even or every odd we can style. All right, so that's what we're going to get into next.